Hey everybody, this is Tim Charron, and welcome to my brand new podcast called the Charron Zone. Blah, 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 blah. Download your free guide to booking gigs at howtobookgigs.com. And welcome everybody to the Charron Zone. I am coming from Ocean Place Studios out on my balcony, so if you guys hear parrots and helicopters, that's what's going on out here. I am with an amazing songwriter, my friend, Mr. Marty Dodson, coming from Nashville. How you doing today, Marty?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. Before we started, I know we were talking about the whole circumstances, the lockdown, and all that stuff. So, in a little bit, I'd like to maybe ask you what kind of advice you would have for up-and-coming songwriters. Actually, why don't we just go right into it? For songwriters in general, during this time, I know that we'll go over your resume in just a second, but you're co-founder of Songtown, which is an amazing organization that mentors and works with up-and-coming songwriters. So why don't you, if you want to just talk about that a little bit, tell us what Songtown is.
Yeah, so Clay Mills and us, in 2012, we were having coffee, and we had run into this woman who had come to Nashville, met kind of a scammy publisher, and paid him $2,500 each for two songs. So each song she paid $2,500 to give him her publishing, all of it, and for him to do a $300 demo for her. And we were like, man, why does this happen? And so we started Googling songwriting, instruction, resources, stuff like that, and we saw all these sites that said, get your songs in front of Nashville producers, or all this big hype. And we thought, man, there's this whole industry built on scamming people who have big dreams. And so we jokingly said, well, what if we started an organization where we tell people your songs are really bad, and that's why you're not having any luck with them, but here's how to make them better. And so we're like, but the more we talked about it, we thought, well, somebody needs to educate people how the business works, how to avoid getting ripped off, but also how to start understanding that maybe my songs are not competitive, but I can learn to make them competitive, And so we started doing daily blogs on Facebook, and that turned into an online class we had, and we sold that out, and we just kept snowballing until we decided, we want to build a website and kind of have this community. So now we've had over 6,000 people take our classes, and we have songwriters from all over the world that connect on Songtown and write together. And with all the craziness going on in the world, it's been a really neat community. We've always had a great community of people, but everybody's even come together more. And so, we've been having, like, every Thursday night, we have some kind of gathering on Zoom where people can get together. We're going to have an open mic night coming up, And so, we just try to do things that bring people together, educate them about how the business works and how to make their songs.
Fantastic. I'm a big fan. I've been involved with Songtown for a few years now, and I love it. You guys do a great job, and one of the most important things that you guys do a great job with is building that community and fostering that real great feeling of having a worldwide community of like-minded people right at your fingertips. So kudos to you. So maybe we just shift a little bit. I don't know if you've put any thought into this, but I'm sure you have, seeing that you're doing all this on Songtown. But what would you tell people that are songwriters at this time with all this happening? Any bits of advice?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. I'm kind of a glass half full kind of guy, and so anytime I get something like this, I tend to look at it and go, okay, what opportunities does this give me, instead of what challenges does it give me,
Yep.
And so for me, it's been I've taken more time to write by myself, which I haven't done in many, many years. I've been spending more time working on ideas and finding great ideas to write. But I've also started reaching out. I was kind of in a rut of writing with the same group of people, and this has caused me to go, I haven't seen this person in a long time. Let me connect with them and write with them by Zoom or something, or Skype or something. And so I've reconnected with some people, and so I'm just using, I've got a lot of time on my hands, so I'm just trying to use that every day to advance my songwriting somehow, But and another thing too is I think a lot of the record label people and artists and those kind of people are home and are listening to more songs than ever because they have time. They're not distracted by the other things of their job. So some of those people have been saying, "Hey, send me songs," and I'm home listening to stuff. So I think it probably gives more people chances to get their songs heard.
Well, I think that's a really, just in general, a really important way to approach this and many other things is you're really trying to working on finding the positives and focusing on those, because at least what I've been finding is if I focus on the things that I can control, I'm much better off, because there's so much that I can't control right now. So, and those are the things that make me worried. So I'm trying my hardest to focus on the things that I can control and trying to find the little silver linings to all of this. And if you keep looking, there are many of them. I'd like to. I didn't give you the proper introduction to talk about your career. So you're a multiple #1 hit songwriter. If you could tell everybody watching and listening some of your notable hit songs.
All right. Well, so I've had 7 #1s in different genres. My biggest have been "Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven" with Kenny Chesney, "Let Me Down Easy," and "Must Be Doing Something Right" with Billy Currington. I've also had stuff with Carrie Underwood, George Strait, Rascal Flatts. My first big single was Rascal Flatts' first ballad ever.
Oh, wow.
And then I've had stuff too. I'm primarily a lyricist, so I've gotten myself into some kind of odd, quirky things. Like I had a #1 with Joe Cocker. It was his last #1 before he passed away. I had a #1 that was Song of the Year in Asia and Korea a few years back on an artist named Cho Young Pil. And so being a lyricist, I write with people that do all kinds of different musical styles, so I've had rock and pop, J-pop, K-pop, country, bluegrass, all kinds of stuff.
And you were off Broadway, weren't you?
I've got music in 2 plays that are it's not off Broadway, but we're working with a Broadway director now, and we're trying to get something off Broadway.
Amazing. That's fantastic. You also had a song with Blake Shelton, right?
I did.
Yep, a couple years ago. Fantastic. So yeah, I love this stuff. I'm a songwriting nerd. I mean, you didn't mention your the proudest moment in your life was writing "I Got 99 Problems, but a Beach Ain't One" with Tim Charron.
Exactly. I thought that was no need to even say that.
Right.
Everyone knows, yeah.
Kind of a given.
That's right.
George Strait, Kenny Chesney, Tim Charron. So yeah, man. Let's you have from knowing you personally. I cherish our conversations, and I know you have such great stories behind some of these songs. So I think we should go into some of them if you want. Like, what's your story behind "Must Be Doing Something Right" by
Billy Currington.
Billy Currington.
Yeah. So on that song, I had a funny story that I don't know that I've told you. I had at one point been writing with Billy early in both of our careers, and we were sitting out on the curb outside my office one day, and he was telling me that he was afraid he was going to lose his record deal. And I was saying, yeah, I'm worried about my writing deal because I haven't had a hit in a little while, and so we had that conversation, and I had written with Jason Matthews, and we had started a song, and we didn't get finished with it. So day 2 of writing this same song, about a month later, I went out to Jason's house in Columbia, Tennessee, and we started working on that other song. And by lunchtime, we hadn't made any progress at all. We were both really frustrated. So we went and got some lunch. And on the way back from lunch, Jason said, "Do you like this song we're working on?" And I said, "No, but I thought you liked it." He said, "I don't like it." So we kind of laughed. Well, we've been writing 2 days on a song nobody likes, And so when we got back to his house, he said, "You know what, let's just write something that people can make out to. There haven't been any good making out songs in a long time on the radio." And so we started exploring feels and things, and within an hour and a half, we had written "Must Be Doing Something Right," and we thought it was pretty good. And I turned it into my publisher, and they flipped out over it and went and played our work tape for the record label, and they flipped out over it, put it on hold for Billy. And
were you thinking of Billy while you were writing it, or just for anybody?
Oh no, we were thinking Billy when we wrote it. We also thought Blake could have done it, and we had some other people in mind, but we did mention him. But at the time, he was about to lose his record deal. We had nothing going on, either of us, so we're like, we'll take anybody. And so they put it on hold for Billy, cut it pretty quickly, and it came out pretty quickly and became Billy's first #1 and mine and Jason's first #1. So.
Wow. After working on for 2 days on a song that nobody liked.
Yep. We ditched the song nobody liked after 2 days and wrote this one in an hour and a half.
Brilliant.
But I thought it was ironic that Billy and I had that conversation, and then we kind of both saved each other's career with that song,
Wow. And you had subsequent cuts with Billy as well, right?
I've only had 2, but they've both been #1. Yeah, "Let Me Down Easy" was the other one.
Beautiful. Well, tell us the story behind that.
Well, that's kind of a story. So I was going through a divorce after being married for 23 years, and I was writing with Mark Nessler, who was going through a divorce, and we had the same lawyer. So like me and my ex and him and his ex had the same 2 lawyers, and so we were having this conversation about that. We were both in a bad place, and the woman he was divorcing, Jennifer Hansen, called, and she was like, "Hey, my co-write got canceled today. Can I come write with y'all?" And we're like, "Okay." So
his ex?
Yeah. Well,
wow.
They were still married, but they were going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And so, and we had written a lot before their divorce, So, but I'm like, okay, this is going to be a great day, right? With 2 people voicing each other while I'm going through a divorce. But she came in, and we were like, okay, let's just get past all that mess going on in our life. And Mark said, "Well, I heard Billy Currington's looking for something. Let's write another thing for him." So 3 people who were getting a divorce wrote a love song that became #1. So
wow,
that's the story there. And we only pitched it to Billy. So we went and played it for the same A&R person, Brian Wright. He loved it, put it on hold, and then Billy cut it. So.
Whew. Wow. I wonder how that factored into the settlement.
I guess it was good for them because they had their own, each had their own share of it already.
Right. Yeah, you didn't have to split that up. Oh man, awesome. Let's go to one of my favorite songs and one of my favorite stories about a song. "Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven," who ended up, Kenny Chesney, of course, having a big #1 hit. Tell everybody that story. This one's great.
It's a crazy story. So I'll try to condense a little bit of it. I had one son, and I'd always been a horrible fisherman, and he loved to fish. And so I was always, literally, we almost never caught a fish. And so we were in Florida, and he asked if we could go fishing on the pier. So we went fishing on the pier, and I stopped in at the bait shop, and they said, we have these bubble rigs that are working really well, and it sounded to me, I mean, they're like, fill it up with water, and the bait is a McDonald's straw, and I thought, they know I'm an idiot, but I had no better idea. So we bought them, we went out on the pier, we threw our lines out, instantaneously both caught big fish, and we caught 120 fish in 2 hours. And so we're walking back down the pier. My son, it's been like his best day of his life. The sun's going down, and I get a call from Jim Collins, my co-writer, that George Strait has cut Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven. And I'm like, man, this is the perfect day,
What a day.
Yeah. And so I'm so excited about that. About a month later, they call and they go, we hate to tell you, it's not going to be on the record. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't tell me that. So we started pitching the song again. Well, unbeknownst to us, George had played everything he cut for Kenny Chesney on his bus. They were doing a show somewhere together, and George played him everything. And when George's record came out, Kenny bought it, discovered that song wasn't on there, and he remembered it.
So George had already cut it.
George cut Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven, but he didn't put it on the record. So I guess Kenny had liked the song a lot because he remembered it, and so he called and asked if he could cut it, and we're like, yes, you may. So he went and cut it. Well, then the record label called back from George's people and said, hey, he thinks he might want to use this on the next record. We're like, well, you told us to pitch it. We pitched it, and Kenny Chesney's already cut it, and it got to be a real mess. So like, they both released it on the same day on iTunes. So the little banner on iTunes was like, new single, Kenny Chesney, Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven. Then it would fade out. New single, George Strait, Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven. We're like, oh no.
So George Strait went from not wanting to put it on that record that had just come out. Then did he release it as a single?
On iTunes only.
Now, was that because Kenny had decided to release it as well? Is that why?
I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
That's
I think
crazy.
I think he was irritated that Kenny cut it. There must have been a miscommunication somewhere with his people, because I think probably they weren't supposed to tell us to pitch it. Somebody told us to go ahead and pitch it, so crazy story. But so it wound up being number one on Kenny, which was a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, when you have two titans of the music industry fighting over your song, you must be doing something right.
There are worse problems to have.
Yes, exactly. Very cool. Do you have any other songs that you want to go over, that you have stories for?
But there's one that might be of interest. The song that Joe Cocker cut was, I wrote with I was writing for a Canadian publishing company called Olay at the time, and they said, we want you to write with this artist. His name's Johnny Reed, and he's Canadian. That's all I really knew. So I just show up. At the time, they weren't even letting you, like, some Canadian artists, you couldn't even find him on YouTube, so I couldn't even find any of his music to listen to. So he shows up, and he's got this very thick Scottish accent. I'm like, but you're Canadian. And he's like, well, I live in Canada, but, I guess it's from Scotland. And he said, I brought this other guy. So he brings this other guy, Alan Frew, and he had a very thick Scottish accent. And I'm like, what is going on here? So Johnny's probably the easiest artist I've ever written with, other than Tim Charron, obviously. but he came in, he goes, I need this kind of song for my record. I need like a show opener, big song for my record. And I've got this thing kind of started. And he's kind of mumbling, fire it up, blah, blah, fire it up. He said, I just want something to get the crowd fired up. And so we wrote this song, and Johnny, the whole way, he'd be like, no, that's not my audience. My audience is this. We need to say this, and we just made it. Like, we probably wrote it in an hour again. And so they leave. So I find out later that Alan's the lead singer for a band called Glass Tiger that had some big hits. They were big in Canada, but I can't remember the name of it. They had a big hit in the U.S. as well. So he's a big deal. And find out Johnny is like the top touring artist in Canada. And so Johnny wound up cutting the song, put it out. It was #1 for him in Canada. And he kind of sounds like Joe Cocker. So someone in the camp was like, we ought to send this to Joe Cocker's people, just, because he sounds like that, And in fact, I've sometimes played both versions for people, and they pick Johnny as Joe Cocker. They think Johnny's Joe Cocker instead of Joe Cocker.
Wow.
So they sent it, and they called, and they're like, man, we love this song. So Joe cut it, wound up being his last #1 before he passed away. And then another quirky story is I played one time at the Bluebird, and this guy comes up afterward and introduced himself and said, I'm in a band and would love to write with you. I like your lyrics, and I'd love to write with you if you want to. And so it was Tom Higginson from the Plain White Tees. And so I wound up writing a couple songs. He would come over to my office, like he'd give me 1 day's notice or something, and go, I'm going to be in town tomorrow. And we'd write at 9 o'clock at night, right way into the night, and drink cheap wine and write these songs. So I wound up writing 3 songs with him, and they cut 2 of them. So I had 2 on the Wonders of the Younger record with Plain White Tees.
That is super cool. That's awesome. I wanted to also thank you and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe West and Terry Hicks for the song Raise the Roof.
Yeah.
Big, it always goes over really big with the fans of mine and live. People love it. And we love playing it live. It's a super fun song, so thank you for that. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on and telling these stories about your songs. And let everybody know, listening and watching, let everybody know where they can find out about you and where they can find out about Songtown.
Awesome. Well, you go to songtown.com and you can find out there. And we have a thing where you can give us your email and get 10 free videos, and that kind of gives you an idea of the instruction type stuff that we do. My email is marty@songtown.com. I'm Marty D Songs on Instagram, and my best Facebook page is Marty Dodson Songwriter. So you can follow me there. Information about my writing and all that.
All right, excellent. Everybody, check out Marty Dodson and check out Songtown. Thank you again for being on.
You're welcome. Stay safe, everybody.